and they wanted those blog posts to disappear.
Is it the same in Canada as the United States?
What do you mean?
Well, is the church the same from what I understand, the Unitarian Church, there is rather these folks.
Right.
This isn't Unitarian, this is what Unitarian Universalist, a separate...
Well, no, they're not separate. In fact...
well, from what I was understanding, these guys, they all kind of work independently. Like, this church doesn't...
Well, put it this way, all Unitarian Universalist churches are ostensibly independent. In other words, even in the United States, they're all ostensibly independent congregations, but they nonetheless are unified under the Unitarian Universalist Association. And it's true that the Canadian church, in quotation marks, broke away from the Unitarian Universalist Association in the early 2000s, in other words, declared independence. This is actually a result of the Unitarian Universalist Association no longer needing them for money laundering purposes, but that's another story. But anyway, what I'm getting at is this church locally and all other Canadian churches, they should be concerned about what happens south of the border. And things happen up here too, so.
I feel like it's a dodgy thing to say, though. Because,
why is it dodgy?
Well, the churchgoers in the United States, the church community in the United States is drastically different than Canada.
Is it really? How? How is it different? Do you know who ministers to Canadian churches?
What do you mean?
Do you know who the ministers are? They are no. Let me because I want to tell you about the close connection between the American church and the Canadian church. The Canadian church is essentially a branch office of the American church. All except a small number of Unitarian Universalist ministers are they what?
Right? The concept comes from the United States.
Well, it comes from Europe, the United States. But what I'm trying to say here is that the Canadian church, at least in terms of the ministers, is not separated from the Unitarian Universalist Church in the United States. The vast majority of Canadian ministers are Unitarian Universalist Association ministers.
So all you've managed to say so far, though, is that you were bothering one of the churches in the United States and they asked you to bugger off.
No, not at all. I posted to the internet about some cases of pedophilia and rape, and the head office, the Vatican, if you will.
Why didn't you go via the law courts yourself? Why did you go via the police instead of just being an online blogger?
Because the cases I blogged about were cases where the people were actually charged, tried, and convicted. So it just makes it all the more insane to accuse me of violating Canada's blasphemy law to hide the blog posts.
You were, by a Boston court? You violated Canada's blasphemy? I don't know about that.
No.
It's dodgy.
Well, I'll tell you what's dodgy is accusing me of blasphemy to hide pedophilia and rape. That's what's dodgy.
What's dodgy to me, though, is to my knowledge, nobody's been charged under Canada's blasphemy law ever.
Well, you're wrong about that. People have been charged. I was threatened with being charged. I was not actually charged. As I told you, a lawyer representing the Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston threatened to have me charged under Canada's blasphemy law if I did not remove the blog post. That's what it was all about. It was
just like I don't know you. I don't know these guys
right.
either. I'm new here. I just met them a couple of weeks ago
right.
at an event. They seem like decent folks.
Right. Yeah, well, the Roman Catholic priests who molest children seem like decent folks most of the times too.
I've met some of them, and for the most part, I find them rather pedantic and useless. But just like
you could say that about a lot of Unitarian clergy too, but.
As being somebody who's new around here.
Right.
With your signs and your story, you seem like a crazy person.
Why? Why do I seem crazy?
Well, because you're standing outside the church with these signs that are kind of ridiculous.
What's ridiculous? What's ridiculous about saying Unitarian Universalists misuse blasphemy law to cover up and deny pedophilia and rape? It's a 100% truthful statement.
I'm just saying.
So why does it appear crazy? I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth, and you're saying I look crazy. You tell me how I look crazy.
I just honest feedback.
I'd say it's very biased feedback, but anyway.
I don't know these guys. I'm new.
You don't know these guys, yeah. I just had someone walk by me and congratulate me for exposing this stuff.
Okay. So I work in marketing and consulting, and this seems like a crazy person.
Why? Again, explain why it's crazy. Why does it look crazy?
It's not normal for people to stand outside church by themselves with big signs like that. And it's just saying, you do you. it's cool and all that. And if this is a real thing, then
Well, it is a real thing, I assure you.
sure.
You know, everything's documented. I wouldn't
That's
be
good.
doing this if I
But
couldn't back
I'm
it up
just saying,
100% in a court of
it
law.
might hurt your message.
No, that.
Stand outside and give the crazy person vibe. That's all.
Well, again, you're playing up the crazy person vibe. As I said, the vast majority of people. I was just commenting actually about how, of the people who actually express something one way or the other regarding my protest, the ratio is something like 8 or 9 out of 10 positive to 1 or 2 out of 10 negative. So you're one of the negatives out of 10.
I would imagine. So it's not negative. It's just
No. It's when you say it's crazy or looks crazy, that's negative. That's negative. That's trying to dismiss it. That's trying to say it.
How often do you see like the guy with like the big "world is ending" sign standing?
Well, this isn't saying the world is ending. This is saying
just for your perspective, right?
Right.
For me,
Yeah.
you look like the guy with the "world is going to end" sign protesting outside of a church, and typically we're like, well, that guy's probably got some sort of, he needs some psychological counseling or something like that.
I've actually seen quite a number of one-person protests, and of the ones I have seen, yes, you get a few people that are definitely a bit off base for sure, but a lot of them are actually pretty legit. If you go and talk to them, you will see that they've actually got some pretty good reasons to be doing what they're doing.
More literature.
Oh, well, I got the blog. Don't forget, I got the blog. I got a Twitter account.
You got to market yourself. If you're going to spend your time, you might as well be trying to grow just from basic marketing principles.
Right.
You need like a little stack of pamphlets or something.
I've considered that. I used to hand them out, but very, very few people want pamphlets. You're maybe one out of.
Well, don't force them on people. You have them there.
Yeah.
If anybody else.
Yeah, but what I tell people is all they have to do is Google, Unitarians and blasphemous libel, and they'll find all the information they need. So, plus.
All sorts of that. Anyway, for me, I'm going to go see what.
Yeah, well, I'm not stopping you from going in there, but from a marketing perspective, it's not a good idea to falsely accuse people of violating blasphemy law in an effort to hide pedophilia and rape. There's this thing called, maybe you've heard of the Streisand effect?
Well, I mean, this is a long-standing habit of the Christian faith all across the globe in all the different.
Of course, and I agree that other. In fact, one of the reasons for doing this is because when I call attention to what's happening here, it reminds people of what's happening in other churches too. Yeah, thank you. I do me quite well. I do me quite well. So yeah, that was one of the. The guy was saying that he wasn't being negative or wasn't. Trying to be negative, but when you portray someone as crazy or looking crazy, that's not exactly positive, and it tends to try to discredit them. So anyhow, we had a nice little chat, and so the guy's into marketing and so on. So maybe when he thinks things through, he will realize that. The Unitarian Universalist church isn't marketing itself very well when it falsely accuses people of violating Canada's blasphemy law and legal bullying intended to hide such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So, anyhow, I like these negative interactions as much as the positive ones, because it shows a certain attitude on certain members of the public. And I'll be fair, this guy wasn't like down on me too much, but he was, maybe from his perspective, he was trying to give what he considered to be friendly advice. But the minute you throw that word crazy out there and suggest that someone's crazy, you are essentially dismissing the validity of, whatever it is they're saying or doing, and essentially, effectively discrediting them, even if you're not necessarily trying to discredit them. And what's interesting too is coming back to the whole child abuse issue. The people, who complain about. Let's broaden out to. Let's broaden out to all people who complain about sexual misconduct, sexual abuse by Unitarian Universalist ministers. It's very, very common for the other church members to try and discredit them as being crazy. It is a very common practice for people who want to discredit whistleblowers and complainants to discredit them as being crazy, and to try and pretend that what they're saying isn't true, and that they're just making stuff up. Well, I'm not making anything up, because everything I'm saying is supported by solid evidence, and there's like zero making stuff up in my protest, on my picket signs, and so on. I may use parody and satire, which involves some imaginary scenarios, but this is parody and satire. I mean, people should be able to distinguish between parody and satire and other expressions. So yes, I do at times use what could be described as fiction in terms of parody and satire to make a very truthful point. But the vast majority of everything I'm talking about, even when I'm satirizing and parodying something, even when I'm mocking and ridiculing something, it is nonetheless about things that are in fact true. I've mocked and ridiculed the Unitarian Universalists for falsely accusing me of blasphemous libel. Here's an example of parody and satire. I made a meme of a Canadian Heritage Moments piece. The Canadian Heritage Moments were these, 1 minute little mini documentaries that were aired on television in Canada about, historic moments in Canada. And so I made a still picture meme taking a screenshot from a Canadian Heritage Moments video, which clearly says Canadian Heritage Moments, and I put a photograph of the section of the cease and desist demand letter that falsely accuses me of blasphemous libel in the meme. So basically mocking, ridiculing the Unitarians for truly